The drumbeats of war are getting louder. In focus, of course, are the new deployments, more and more deployments at that. On one side, Russia is sending in more troops. And on the other hand, NATO is trying to match this deployment. Stuck in between, of course, is Ukraine, where the 10-day-long military drills are currently underway. But even while leaders hope that some form of diplomacy will work out and, in a certain sense, douse the tensions, the fear of an invasion continues to loom over the region. The United States is now urging its citizens to leave the country immediately. The State Department has issued a new advisory. They want citizens to get out of here. Now, because of this, all of it comes down to one factor, and that is, if there is a war, then the U.S. will not deploy soldiers to Ukraine, not even to evacuate its own citizens.
What scenarios would you put American troops to rescue and get Americans out?
There's not. That's a world war. When Americans and Russians start shooting at one another, we're in a very different world than we've ever been in.
According to a U.S. intelligence report, the Russian military could launch a full-scale invasion with tanks that potentially could reach Kiev within 48 hours. So what the U.S. wants is for citizens to get out as soon as they can.
Simply put, we continue to see very troubling signs of Russian escalation, including new forces arriving at the Ukrainian border. And as we've said before, we're in a window when an invasion could begin at any time. And to be clear, that includes during the Olympics. We're continuing to draw down our embassy. We will continue that process. And we've also been very clear that any American citizens who remain in Ukraine should leave now.
Both the US and the UK think that an invasion, in fact, could happen anytime. Japan, too, has warned its citizens to leave the country immediately. However, Ukraine has played down Biden's evacuation order as nothing new. Meanwhile, new satellite images show an increased Russian deployment in the region. We're showing now the new images that are currently on your screen. Now, these are the new troops that Russia has moved to Belarus and also Crimea. Furthermore, reports suggest that 10,000 Russian soldiers are now camping in Crimea. Russia is currently holding joint military exercises in Belarus as well as naval drills in the Black Sea. It is all part of Moscow's surging military activity near Ukraine. Russia has not disclosed how many troops it has deployed. Moscow even says that it has the right to move forces around on its territory as it sees fit, insisting that they do not pose any external threat. Meanwhile, our executive editor, Palki Sharma Upadhyay, is on ground zero covering all the latest developments from Ukraine. She joined us earlier to bring us the latest updates from the Russia-Ukraine border, in fact, a very sensitive zone. In this next report, Palki gives us a sense of the public sentiment during the conflict, along with the repercussions of the US president's recent warning telling Americans to leave Ukraine now. Listen in.
I'm at the Senkivka border checkpoint, and this site where I'm standing will be the site of the opening battle in case Russia decides to invade Ukraine. Because to my right is Belarus. This road leads to Belarus. The border is right behind where we are standing. And to my left is Russia, and where we are is Ukraine. In front of me you see the last Ukrainian village on the northern side, which is Senkivka. So this is a very, very significant spot. A former defense minister of Ukraine recently said that the 600-mile-long border between Ukraine and Belarus is a high-risk zone. And we went here today to see what was happening, because on the other side of the border, I'm sure you know that Russia and Belarus are conducting drills. They have S-400 missile systems, Su-35 fighter jets, Iskander missiles, tanks, all sorts of military deployment, and 30,000 troops. And so this is a very sensitive zone. The border guards who are stationed here are prepared, they say, for whatever is coming. They've always operated under the shadow of war, and they understand the risks involved, but they are standing steady. We were given a tour of this area, and a lot of places are out of bounds, you would understand, because of security concerns. There were vast stretches of land where we told we could not step on because there were landmines. But this is the last Ukrainian village. This is a border checkpoint beyond which we have Russian territory. Well, Joe Biden's statement and his administration's assessment becomes more dire by the day. When we began this week, we were telling our viewers about American intelligence assessments that said that Kiev could fall within 48 to 72 hours, that there might be 50,000 civilian casualties, 25,000 troop casualties on the Ukrainian side. This was American assessment. They could not give any specific details on how they arrived at those numbers, but that's what they said. Now, in this past week, we've seen the U.S. president repeatedly say that American citizens should evacuate. This is the time to leave, and he's made a very important statement today where he says that he is not going to send U.S. troops to evacuate citizens because he's been giving them enough warnings, and he says we're facing one of the biggest militaries in the world, i.e. the Russian military, and things could, quote-unquote, go crazy at any time, and that does not instill a lot of confidence in the people here. But if you talk to the people of Ukraine, they say that they're hoping there is not going to be a war, and they're confident in their forces, and the spirits remain high.
WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.